crime, you'll most likely think of Al Capone. He was undoubtedly the most famous mafia mobster ever to live. Alphonse Capone was born into an Italian immigrant family on January 17, 1899, in Brooklyn, New York. At the age of 14, Capone quit school after hitting a teacher, and instead got his education by working for former gangster Johnny Torrio. In 1918, Al Capone was working as a bouncer and bartender, and one night he made a rude remark to a woman seated at the club. Her brother was nearby and overheard Capone. The brother then took a knife to Capone's face and slashed it several times. He was scarred for life, earning his nickname Scarface. Capone married May Coughlin on December 30th, 1918. 3 weeks later, their only child was born, Albert Francis Capone. Shortly after this, Capone moved from New York to Chicago to help Johnny Torrio run his operations. At the beginning of the Prohibition in 1920s, Johnny Torrio was all for bootlegging because he knew that there was a gold mine somewhere along the way. Either Al Capone or Frankie Yale were rumored to have assassinated Big Jim Colosimo, allowing John Torrio to sit at the top of the Chicago mob. Torrio appointed Capone as his right-hand man, and upon Torrio's retirement around 1925, Capone took over the Chicago mob. Al Capone dealt with his rival Chicago gangs with brutal violence. Things like shootouts, kidnapping, murder frequently occurred. The most famous example was his 1929 St. Valentine's Day massacre of the Bugs Marin gang. In an effort to get rid of his crosstown rival, Bugs Moran, Capone arranged an ambush. Capone had a bootlegger contact Moran, who offered him a really good whiskey at a bargain price. This way, Moran and his gang were lured into a small garage warehouse. Upon the arrival of the gang, Capone's hired assassins staged a fake police raid, which gathered Moran's gang inside the garage, lined them up, and unloading mags. They were gunned down in cold blood. Fortunately for Bugs Moran himself, he arrived late to the deal, and what he saw was just a police raid, so it gave him time to flee, not knowing his men were fixing to be slaughtered. By 1929, Al Capone was the most famous gangster in America, and President Herbert Hoover ordered federal law enforcement to find a way to prosecute him and end his reign of crime. As a result, Elliot Naz, a U.S. Prohibition Bureau agent, was sent to Chicago to try to bust Capone on prohibition charges. Although this mission went unsuccessful, they were able to destroy his bootlegging business, and they finally got him on tax evasion. On October 17, 1931, Al Capone was sentenced to 11 years in the federal penitentiary. Al Capone soon became Alcatraz's most famous prisoner, but only served half of his sentence due to good behavior and deteriorating health. He spent his remaining years living in his Florida home with his wife, May, and died on January 25, 1948, at the age of 48.